Welcome to Man in the Universe, selections from the Life Divine by Sri Aurobindo, Vegetarian, Part 1 of 2 on Words of Wisdom. India is the home of many great spiritual masters who have brought wisdom and truth to earth. Their lives and compassionate teachings inspire us to seek a higher purpose in life, thus uplifting humanity to a more divine state of being. One such great figure is the spiritual master, yogi, philosopher, poet, and politician, Sri Aurobindo, who graced our planet from 1872 to 1950. Sri Aurobindo's time as a politician was dedicated to achieving India's independence. However, after inner reflection, Sri Aurobindo retired from politics and service to his country. His aspirations turned instead toward the liberation of all humanity. Sri Aurobindo traveled to Pondicherry on the southeastern coast of India, where he retreated into the practice of silent yoga. Based on the inner knowledge revealed to him during his spiritual practice, Sri Aurobindo began publishing writings full of wisdom. Originally written by Sri Aurobindo between 1914 and 1919, the Life Divine describes the spiritual journey that unfolds as a person sincerely seeks the highest truth. Such a journey leads to the soul's awakening and the direct experience of divinity. Today we present to you excerpts of Chapter 6, Man in the Universe, from the book The Life Divine. Chapter 6, Man in the Universe. The soul of man, a traveler, wanders in this cycle of Brahman, huge, a totality of lives, a totality of states, thinking itself different from the impeller of the journey. Accepted by him, it attains its goal of immortality. Sveta Sutara Upanishad. The progressive revelation of a great, a transcendent, a luminous reality with the multitudinous relativities of this world that we see and those other worlds that we do not see as means and material, condition and field. This would seem then to be the meaning of the universe, since meaning and aim it has and is neither a purposeless illusion nor a fortuitous accident. For the same reasoning which leads us to conclude that world existence is not a deceptive trick of mind, justifies equally the certainty that it is no blindly and helplessly self-existent mass of separate phenomenal existences, clinging together and struggling together as best they can in their orbit through eternity. No tremendous self-creation and self-impulsion of an ignorant force without any secret intelligence within aware of its starting point and its goal and guiding its process and its motion. An existence wholly self-aware and therefore entirely master of itself possesses the phenomenal being in which it is involved, realizes itself in form, unfolds itself in the individual. That luminous emergence is the dawn which the Aryan forefathers worshipped. Its fulfilled perfection is that highest step of the world-pervading Vishnu, which they beheld as if an eye of vision extended in the purest heavens of the mind. For it exists already as an all-revealing and all-guiding truth of things which watches over the world and attracts mortal man, first without the knowledge of his conscious mind by the general march of nature, but at last consciously by a progressive awakening and self-enlargement to his divine ascension. The ascent to the divine life is the human journey, the work of works, the acceptable sacrifice. This alone is man's real business in the world, and the justification of his existence, without which he would be only an insect crawling among other ephemeral insects on a speck of surface mud and water, which has managed to form itself amid the appalling immensities of the physical universe. This truth of things that has to emerge out of the phenomenal world's contradictions is declared to be an infinite bliss and self-conscious existence, the same everywhere, in all things, in all times and beyond time, and aware of itself behind all these phenomena, by whose intensest vibrations of activity, or by whose largest totality it can never be entirely expressed or in any way limited. For it is self-existent and does not depend for its being upon its manifestations. They represent it, but do not exhaust it, point to it, but do not reveal it. It is revealed only to itself within their forms. The conscious existence involved in the form comes, as it evolves, to know itself by intuition, by self-vision, by self-experience. It becomes itself in the world by knowing itself. It knows itself by becoming itself. Thus possessed of itself inwardly, it imparts also to its forms and modes the conscious delight of Satchidananda, being, consciousness, bliss. This becoming of the infinite bliss, existence, consciousness in mind and life and body, for independent of them it exists eternally, is the transfiguration intended and the utility of individual existence. Through the individual it manifests in relation even as of itself it exists in identity. The unknowable, knowing itself as Satchidananda, being, consciousness, bliss, is the one supreme affirmation of Vedanta, a Hindu philosophy based on the doctrine of the Upanishads. It contains all the others, or on it they depend. This is the one veritable experience that remains when all appearances have been accounted for negatively by the elimination of their shapes and coverings, or positively by the reduction of their names and forms to the constant truth that they contain. For fulfillment of life, or for transcendence of life, and whether purity, calm, and freedom in the spirit be our aim, or puissance, joy, and perfection, Satchidananda, being, consciousness, bliss, is the unknown, omnipresent, indispensable term for which the human consciousness, whether in knowledge and sentiment, or in sensation and action, is eternally seeking. The universe and the individual are the two essential appearances into which the unknowable descends and through which it has to be approached, for other intermediate collectivities are born only of their interaction. This descent of the Supreme Reality is in its nature a self-concealing, and in the descent there are successive levels in the concealing successive veils. Necessarily the revelation takes the form of an ascent, and necessarily also the ascent and the revelation are both progressive. For each successive level in the descent of the divine is to man a stage in an ascension. Each veil that hides the unknown God becomes for the God-lover and God-seeker an instrument of his unveiling. Out of the rhythmic slumber of material nature unconscious of the soul, and the idea that maintain the ordered activities of our energy, even in our dumb and mighty material trance, the world struggles into the more quick, varied, and disordered rhythm of life, laboring on the verges of self-consciousness. For more information, please visit sriaurobindoashram.org.
Please don't refuse with your eyes what the animals endure with their bodies. Sean Monson, vegan.
Perceptive viewers, it has been a pleasure to have you with us today for Words of Wisdom.